Here it is. This is an entire master set of Pokemon's newest release, Twilight Masquerade. And this is a custom built binder that was made by a member of the fan clan for the fan clan. That's right. One lucky subscriber is going to win this entire master set. And if you want that to be you, here's all you have to do. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel and then head over to this video right up here. Leave a like and a comment on that video and then come back on Friday, June 7th, to see if you are the lucky winner of a brand new master set of Twilight Masquerade. Good luck. Hey, what is going on, Fan Clan? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Danny Phantom. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys all did a lot of fun stuff over the weekend. Memorial Day was yesterday. It rained a lot, at least where I am. It rained a lot like the day before. It's just nothing but rain. It's been a lot of fun. But that was okay because over the weekend we had the Los Angeles Pokemon Regional Tournament going on. It was a lot of fun to watch. Kind of check in, see how my friends were doing. They did okay, like not great, but this is always a very interesting time for competitive Pokemon because that's it as far as regional events goes. I think this was, pretty sure this was the last one, the Los Angeles one. Last year we had one in Milwaukee, which was super cool, but they got rid of the one in Milwaukee. They put it in Los Angeles. This was the last regional event. Now you have a couple of weeks before the North American International Championships, which is the last international tournament of the season. For those of you who don't know, the season ends in August. August is the World Championships, which this year take place in Honolulu. Top prize, I think, is $20,000. It's crazy amount, plus a bunch of prizes, things like that, trophy cards. But this was also the last set, and this is why it's so interesting, the last set that did not have Twilight Masquerade legal for use. So there was still a lot, there hasn't been a whole lot of change in the format over the past few months, right? Like we've had Pidgey control decks, we've had Snorlax control decks, we've had Charizard running all over the place. Lugia seems to try and get better, and it might get a little bit better now with Twilight Masquerade being out. Gardevoir is still a thing, but it's all over the place. And right now with Twilight Masquerade coming into format, I think it's just like a wrecking ball that just completely messes everything up, and everybody's like scrambling, trying to figure out what decks to play. And because of that, the Pokemon card market goes all over the place. If you remember last time, right around this time, a little bit later, after the North American International Championships, as players were gearing up and getting ready for the World Championships, we saw Umbreon VMAX, not the alternate art Umbreon VMAX, just the regular Umbreon VMAX, basically go from a bulk card up to like $10, $11, $12 because it was something that was viable for Worlds. Now, it didn't end up being viable for Worlds. I think a lot of people tested it and they were like, okay, we're going to go with something else. We're going to go with Mew. We're going to go with a sure thing. But right now, I think nobody really knows what to play. And North American International Championships is really the last attempt to try and solidify anything that's going on in the format. Like before you make a decision on what deck you want to bring to the World Championships, you want to see how it performs at NAIC, what decks do well at NAIC, what techs you can put in to swing matchups in your favor. And it's constantly this game of cat and mouse where you're going back and forth trying to figure out what can I put in this deck that beats the meta? What can I put in this deck, or what can I play that will beat everything in the format? And then you have situations like Mega Audino, which comes in out of nowhere and just destroys Greninja and destroys Night March back in the day, and nobody expected it at all. And maybe we'll get another one of those situations, but it's always fun to watch. Speaking of fun to watch, the Pokemon card market in general is fun to watch right now because it is going all over the place. And we are no longer in a situation, no longer in a position where it is only Sword and Shield era stuff that is moving up and down all over the place. It is no longer just Sword and Shield sealed product that is moving like crazy. Paldea Evolved, obviously one of those sets that we've talked about a lot over the past couple years since it came out, or over the past year and a half since it came out. It's been going up like nuts, and now it's still very much in line with a reprint possibility, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Pokemon reprinted more Paldea Evolved and put more of it into the market, because we're still in that window and it's going to be in the standard format for quite some time. But there's a lot of single cards right now that are really starting to take off, and some of them are due to competitive play and some of them are just not. Some of them are just because people like the artwork, people like the collectibles, and because of that, demand, popularity, buyouts, manipulation. It's a mess. Everything. This is just, it is just such a mess all over the place. I'm going to flip you guys around So you can see exactly what we're going to talk about, or what I am talking about. We're going to start out with kind of the big one that happened over the weekend. Twilight Masquerade came out, and a lot of people were hyping up Dragapult. Still to this day, I cannot figure out the best way to play Dragapult EX. And part of me thinks, okay, well, a Lost Zone concept is probably the best way to do it. Maybe I can do Tatsugiri, put that out in my active spot, and try and get some Colress's experiments going right away on the first couple of turns to load up my Lost Zone with at least 7, so that way I can Mirage Gate, because otherwise Dragapult EX just seems too clunky, like it takes 2 different energies, which isn't bad, but to accelerate that and accelerate it evolving, okay, well, what's the best? Do I put a technical machine, an evolution machine tool on a Natu? Do I play the Xatu variant? It's all just very all over the place, and because of that, people are focusing on maybe something else that might be doing well, and that's Raging Bolt EX. It did really well over in Japan, and Japan is always a format ahead of us, so a lot of players focus on what's going on in Japan and what's playing well over in Japan. And right now, the Teal Mask Ogerpon EX paired up with Raging Bolt EX is doing extremely well. It's won a couple of tournaments, and a lot of people are thinking, okay, well, maybe this is going to be very good for NAIC, and I think it is a strong play. I don't think it's necessarily the best play, but I do think it's a very strong play, and because of that, a lot of copies are getting bought up, so that way people can make decks. And it's not just the special illustration, remember, but if you see what happened over the weekend with the special illustration, or this is from Temporal Forces, it's only been out for a few months. We already had this card get bought out right after the release of Temporal Forces. It went from basically a $50 special illustration rare, and people were like, holy buckets, the pull rates on this set are not very good. I'm going to buy this card while I still can. And other people were like, I'm going to take advantage of this situation because pull rates are tough, and it jumped up to almost $80 a card. Then it started to go back down. People were like, okay, well, this card isn't worth $80. It is a cool artwork, but a lot of people were like, okay, it's not worth that much, and it ended up sinking all the way back down to where it had fallen right after release. It was back to a $50 card, and now with the fact that its playability is unlocked, it has shot up and skyrocketed like crazy just over the past couple weeks, almost doubling in price. In fact, if you look on TCG Player, the market is right around $100 right now and continuing to climb, because the lowest ones listed are right around that $100 price point. So it's jumped up to $90.69, which is, like I said, almost double its $50.07 low point, which it hit in the middle of May. So it's currently sitting at $90.69 and continuing to trend in that upward direction. The same thing is happening with the regular art. You had a little bit of pre-order pricing up in beginning of March, middle of March, where this card did establish a market of $12.55, but it just died right away. You know, as more and more quantities came out there, it basically turned into a bulk EX right away, and it hovered right around 93 cents throughout April, throughout the end of March, and up until the middle of May. And then people were like, oh, I want to play this Raging Ogre deck that everybody's talking about. And now look what happened. It shot up to $7.95, so almost a 700% increase over the course of like 2 days, basically, which is just insane. And the same thing is happening with the full art. The only one that's really not impacted is the Hyper Rare. The Hyper Rare still hovering right around $12, $13. It may have jumped up a little bit, but for the most part, it's been pretty much where it's been at for the past month. This is the full art variant right here, which dropped down to $2.22 in the middle of May. Started climbing up a little bit, and then right around May 22nd, as you can see, it shot up like crazy. It jumped up to $12.95. Now it's retraced a little bit, sitting at $11.51, but because of those attacks, because of its playability, and we'll see how it performs at NAIC, this is a situation right now where maybe if you're not somebody who plays competitively, you look at trading off one of these to fill out a different piece of your collection, because it really is going to depend on how it performs at NAIC for this price to hold. We've seen this happen with Iron Hands EX, where it's gone up and down, up and down. We've seen this happen with other cards as well, like the next one that we're going to look at in just a second here. Here's the Teal Mask Ogerpon EX right here. This is the full art variant. We're not going to look at the special illustration rare, but look at what it did just over the weekend. So it dropped down to $8.89. This set just came out. Remember, it just came out on Friday. Normally, I don't look at price points this early on. We will talk about those on Friday to see how much of a fall a lot of these special illustration rares and illustration rares took opening weekend as more and more product hit the shelves. But just because of the buzz around this deck and everybody scrambling then to prepare for the North American International Championships, this card shot up. It dropped down to $8.89, and then it doubled in price now just over the past couple days. So it's sitting at $17.19 currently. It probably will fall back down a little bit more as more and more product gets open. Still very, very early on in the Twilight Masquerade era. So here is the Teal Mask Ogerpon EX regular art variant. This one also shot up like crazy. It had dropped down to about $6.31 right at release before shooting up. Even pre-order pricing on this card was not really that expensive, despite the fact that a lot of people are like, well, this is the play. This is the play. It did jump up to $12.58 over the weekend, and then more quantities hit the shelves, and now it's dropped down a little bit, sitting at $10.75. But still, you're looking at almost double the price in just a matter of a couple days. That's how big of an impact the competitive market can have on things. Here's Origin Form Dialga V-Star, still going to be something that's possible moving into North American International Championships. Remember, this one won the Indianapolis Regional event. We've talked about Dialga before in shorts, but I don't think we've ever brought it up in a long-form content video before. This is the past year, and you can see how unviable this card was in standard format. It just was not something that a lot of people played. Right after it came out, they thought was, okay, well, this one might have potential, but a lot of people focused more on the Palkia that came out in Astral Radiance, and because of that, this card just never really saw the light of day until recently, and then jumped up like crazy in January. It went from $1.85 all the way up to $12.74, and now it's been hovering really close to that double-digit pricing over the past few months now, sitting at $8.64 currently. So we'll see how this card performs moving forward. Again, maybe another card that you might want to trade off now while there's still a little bit of value associated with it, so that way you can fill out a different piece in your collection once things rotate out of format. And this should still be in format until April, assuming that they do rotation around the same time again. Here's the Origin Form Dialga V regular art. This one was a bulk EX card, or a bulk V card. It did drop down to 78 cents, and then it exploded in April of 2024. It jumped all the way up to $7.63 for a regular art V card. Now it's backed off a little bit, but still sitting at $5.75. And if you count the amount of V cards that are in existence that are above bulk pricing, you can probably do it all on one hand. So this one, definitely one of the more expensive regular art bulk V cards, or regular art V cards that are out there. We are not just seeing competitive cards that are really moving in the modern era. It also seems to be some Scarlet and Violet illustration rares, special illustration rares. And if you look at the quantity, and TCG Player wrote about this in a news briefing that they put out a couple weeks ago, where they talked about buyouts and they talked about things happening where there's specific days where they're seeing an excessive amount of sales. That's what's happening with this Tyranitar right now. That's what's happening with the Magikarp. That's what's happening with a lot of different versions. If you look on the quantities that are listed on TCG Player, you can see how few quantities are still available for a card like this Tyranitar, and it has jumped up like crazy over the past few months. You can see in January of 2024, this was down to $16.40. Now it's over doubled in price over the past 4 months. It jumped up to $37.58 recently. That's where it's sitting right now. It's the highest this card has been since Paldea Evolved came out. Same thing with Raichu. This Raichu illustration rare also moving like crazy in November of 2023. It had fallen down to $15.18. That was the low point for this one, and now it's jumped up where it's over double in price as well. It hit $39 a couple of weeks ago, and it's backed off a little bit, but still sitting at $37.03, and just not a whole lot of quantities that are listed on TCG Player. So it's not just the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved that is seeing some of the effects of everything, all the popularity that is going through right now. A lot of people are starting to pay more attention to what's going on, and now this card has skyrocketed like crazy. Here's the Groudon from Paradox Rift. This card has also been jumping up like crazy. You can see over doubling in price over the past few months. In April of 2024, this was down to $22.42. Now here it is sitting at $50.99. That's the highest this Groudon has been since Paradox Rift came out, and continuing to trend in the upward direction. Like I said, just not a whole lot of them that are out there. Here's the Steelix that also came out in Paradox Rift. This one's been a little bit more steady, a little bit more slow growth, but still quite a bit of growth over the past few months. Ever since Paradox Rift came out, you can see in December it was at its low point of $9.30, and it's been inching up. This construction worker Steelix been inching up ever since December, and it's sitting at $13.85. So you're looking at about a 50% price jump over the past 6 months, and continuing to trend in the upward direction. It's also special illustration rares, especially some of them from Paradox Rift, that are really starting to move up as well. You can see the Altaria EX was trending downward for quite some time. That's what we saw from a lot of special illustration rares, and Paradox Rift still seemed to have okay 100K pull rates. It was really temporal forces where we really started noticing a change in the pull rates. But in March of 2024, this one had dropped down to $19.41. But you can see over the past few months, it has jumped up about $8. So jumped up about 40% since March of 2024, sitting at $27.17 currently, and still trending in the upward direction with fewer and fewer quantities that seem to be listed on TCG Player. The Garchomp is also moving up now, nowhere near where it was in December of 2023. It was at its high point then of $28.47, but it dropped quite a bit. And Garchomp, a very popular Pokemon in March of 2024, it had dropped down to $16. Now it's gained about $6 of that back, so about 40% growth over the past few months, with the majority of it happening in May. But again, low quantities that are currently listed for sale, sitting at $22.74 and continuing to trend upward. And the last one we're looking at is the Chime-Pow EX. This one also from Paldea Evolve. Now this one is twofold. First of all, a lot of people like the collectability of it, but also it is very competitive. Chime-Pow does have a lot of different variants that are out there, with full arts, with gold cards, with hyper rares, with promo cards, and also the special illustration rare that you see right here. This one did drop down to $17.36, and it's still not back to its one-year high, which was $34.21. But you can see over the past several months, Chime-Pow, a very strong competitive card. Now, it hasn't really done a great job of taking home a big event, but it has continued to flirt with that top 8 situation and continues to be there. And this one, because of that, really starting to trend in the upward direction again, sitting at $27.45 currently, and continuing to trend upward with less and less quantities that seem to be available for purchase. So it's really not just the Sword and Shield era, it seems, that is making a lot of moves in the market. A lot of it is due to competitive play, but also some special illustration rares and some illustration rares that are really starting to make some noise. And it seems like Pokemon is really starting to gain some popularity again. I'm sure part of it, I'm sure a good chunk of it is actually driven by money and things like that, which is unfortunate. But whenever anything like that gets frustrating, the best thing that you can do is kind of just take a break, sit back and watch the entertainment, grab a bucket of popcorn, see what's going on. Remember how cyclical the market is. Things go up and down all over the place, and a lot of times, a lot of it has to do with competitive play as well. So just be patient, don't FOMO, focus on something. There's Shrouded Fables coming out in a couple months. Twilight Masquerade has some really cool illustration rares, things that aren't impacted in the market right now. Maybe focus on those. But I hope you enjoy the content. If you did, please hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like, leave a comment. It goes a long way for the algorithm. But most importantly, thank you so much just for taking the time to listen to me ramble for 17 minutes. Love you guys. I really appreciate you. Talk to you again tomorrow. Until next time, peace.